worst toga party ever. Needles freak me out, so when the time came to schedule a vasectomy, I procrastinated for 4 years. Having sex with live ammunition is a great way to have a baby, turns out. So when my wife inevitably became pregnant with our fifth, I forced myself to schedule the consultation. The pre-op consult was not comforting. I begged to be put under, but the doctor declined, saying that they just didn't have the facilities in Monroe, and that the surgery only took 20 minutes. Not enough time to warrant general anesthesia. He had me drop my drawers and did his initial inspection of my, weapon system. I attempted levity by saying, "Aren't you going to buy me a drink first?" "Ha," he said flatly, clearly not amused. I think he'd heard that one before. We scheduled my procedure for the following Friday, and he wrote me a script for 3 Valium and 2 hydrocodone an hour before the procedure. Then, he handed me the literature and said I should acquaint myself with the details of the procedure before Friday, and call him by Thursday if I changed my mind. In the "What should I expect" during my vasectomy section, it said, "You'll feel a sharp poke, followed by a deep, aching pain in your testicles. Then, you'll feel a tug, hear a pop, and in some cases, smell burning flesh. This is normal and should not alarm you." I mean, it shouldn't, but it did. I kept from psyching myself out by reflecting on what my life would be like with 6 kids instead of 5. Do you even notice when you go from 5 to 6? Maybe the better question was, do you notice going from 5 to 6 more than a tug, pop, and a burn? V-Day came, and I ate my lunch like an inmate on testicular death row. At 1:45 p.m., I took 3 Valium and 2 hydrocodone. By 1:55 p.m., I was flying high. I arrived, thanks to my wife, at the doctor's office at 2:45 p.m. The inner dialogue in my head was, "Oh my gosh, it's wearing off. Is it wearing off? I feel normal. Am I supposed to feel normal? I'm supposed to be tripping balls, but I feel super anxious." At 2:59 p.m., I strongly considered turning back and resigning myself to buying one of those 12-passenger Mennonite vans. But then the clock struck 3, and I knew right there was no turning back. I resigned myself to the coming horror and encouraged myself that it couldn't be that bad, right? The door opened and the nurse emerged, saying my name. To my infinite dismay, she looked at my wife and said, "Amber, how are you?" The narcotics were definitely still coursing through my body, because the conversation between the nurse and my wife, Amber, was completely lost in a haze of sound and spinning lights. I was just lucid enough to realize that I was about to have a vasectomy with an attending nurse who knew my wife's family. Beads of cold sweat began to form on my forehead, and my vision began to narrow. The waiting room and my wife fell from view as I shambled through the door and obediently followed the sweet old lady. Upon arrival to my small curtained staging area, the nurse told me to get undressed from the waist down and wrap a sheet around my lower body. "Oh, like a toga," I said dreamily. She said, "Yup, just like a toga." "Don't pretend like you're on my side, lady." I complied, and she led me back to the operating room. It was cold and smelled like a Band-Aid factory. I laid on the table and opened the sheet. No turning back now. As she covered my legs and waist with sterile towels, leaving my man parts conspicuously exposed, she made polite conversation. My heart sank as she flipped on an electric shaver. Nausea overwhelmed me as she told me how much she had enjoyed my wedding, and how wonderful my mother-in-law is, all while shaving my balls. I reminded myself that my future self would get a kick out of this story, and decided just to embrace it. We talked as she prepared me for surgery, and I tried to forget the nightmarish scene unfolding in that room. The doctor arrived, and the promised poking, burning, tugging, and aching proceeded just as the literature described. It was awful, and at one point, my toes curled so hard, I thought I'd tickled the soles of my feet with the tips of my toes. 2 needles in each testicle. When the final needle was withdrawn and the numbness signaled the beginning of the downhill side of this experience, the kaleidoscope of pain began to subside. In the wake of this sudden dopamine surge, a terrible thing began to happen. In fact, The thing that happened was my thing. An unbeckoned boner began to lift its head from the warm towel like a cobra, charmed by the deft hands of the surgeon, who had just been unceremoniously gripping and moving it around. Heedless of the consequences for such actions, mortified, I did what I instinctively do in these situations. Sorry, Doc. I assure you, it's not personal. With zero inflection and zero eye contact, he said, "No biggie," and continued his work. Well played. I can appreciate a professional. I passed the remainder of the procedure staring at the ceiling, smelling the nauseous odor of charred ball meat, wishing I could be literally anywhere else in the world. That was the worst toga party I ever attended. Have a good one.
I'm just trying to tell you how I feel, I've been on toilet, too much, my turn down.